Well, all right. Welcome back to the Survival and Basic Badass Podcast, Kevin and Chuck. Today, we're going to talk about good fences. It's kind of a broad idea, but basically, since I moved down to the South, one of the things that I really noticed is people set up, um, I want to say almost garden plots. They want to attract wildlife. They want to make their hunting area, their property, conducive to attracting game and wildlife and making it a habitat that they want to hang around in, which in turn ends up, you know, bringing in your food supply and basically stretching your supplies and resources and, making your life a lot easier when it comes to getting meat. As men, as preppers, we like meat, right? I know there's some girls that listen to this show, and I'm the bad guy, alienating and coming up with ideas like that. But we're meat eaters, right? That's kind of a thing here. We talk about meat, we talk about good things, and anyway. So now I also know on the flip side of that, when you have gardens, your entire life and efforts are put into keeping wildlife out and keeping them away and driving them away from what's going on. So it is kind of a contradiction, and that's I guess where that title good fences comes in, because you do want distinct areas where you separate the two. But that said, there is a big benefit to bringing in animals and meat. And, I know we've talked in the past about how, in a real shit hits the fan kind of scenario, everybody's like, oh, well, I can go bag a deer and I'm never going to go hungry, And yeah, that population is going to thin out and it's not going to be the long term resource. But one, it can be the resource for right now. Free cheap meat is a cool thing, and knowing how to butcher and take care of your meat is a good thing. We did do an episode on how to butcher a deer. There was a great video that I had gotten that I would be happy to pass along the information of where you could get it. I'll maybe try and get it in the show notes if I can dig it up. But definitely, if you're really looking for a good video on how to butcher your meat, shoot me an email at preppingbadass@gmail.com. I'd be happy to get you in touch with the right information. But that said, it's still having a good environment, and especially smaller animals, squirrels, rabbits, that kind of thing. Those things are going to last a little bit longer. They're not the first go-to that people go for when they're, scared and trying to venture into hunting for the first time. So having an environment conducive to these animals could really be the difference in extending your food supply, for many months. So with that, let's kind of get into it. Kevin had some really good ideas on things we could set up to kind of attract what makes a good environment for, wildlife, for animals. Like, what are animals looking for? Oh, there was one more that people want, but yeah, okay. They like apple trees. Yes. Yeah. Right. Oh, yeah, Monsanto, but it's Roundup. Roundup's what you're looking for. Rabbits do love it. Groundhogs. Right. Yes. Right. Right. Yeah. And rodents and yeah. Right. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. One of the things I learned, as a trapper, is that nature loves other nature. And that's kind of, what you're getting at is, they want to be around other stuff and because it makes them feel safe. And also, that's where the food's going to be, right? You like to eat little animals or even bigger animals. Bigger animals like to eat littler animals, and little animals eat even smaller animals. And just throwing up like the wood pile or whatever in the middle of nowhere, they always said it with trapping. If you look out into a field, where is the best place to set a trap? And they're like, look for the highest point kind of thing. And it's going to be, a stump in the middle of the field, an old tractor laying there, that broken farm implement. Because when you go out there, that's where the mice are going to be. That's where, and so the animals are going to come over and check out, hey, what can I eat over here? And each thing progressively, as animals get bigger, are looking for that environment. They're looking for something that's going to stand out, but it's going to attract little things because everything, like you said, is looking for shelter. They're looking for that area. But also, the water source seems to be a great one. I'm kind of torn back and forth on whether I dig a big pond. I end up, um, it rains quite a bit where I am. And I end up having like I have a big shooting lane that's kind of I dug down kind of into the clay to kind of make a long narrow alley, and it ends up pooling up water in there, and it's pretty awesome because I have the nice backstop set up, and when I go out there, that's where the deer. I come out, I see the deer just sitting there in the middle of my shooting lane. Yeah, like, hey, this is where we want to be because I have big puddles of water. But it's like, hey, let me come out and get a drink. And what's cool is it's an opening where I have woods on either side. And so the animals feel kind of safe and protected, because they don't kind of recognize, hey, I'm in the middle of a big opening here because they see woods all around them. It doesn't kind of connect as much as a big field, but it's like a little break in the woods and they stop to get their drink. So that's something to consider also. But the big food plots just for animals, they do the turnips and the bigger things, and like you said, lagoons and stuff like that. And just running the tractor with a tiller, or breaking up a section and throwing down some seed is so easy to do. A lot easier when you have a tractor and a tiller, but even so, digging up a long row and throwing some feed in there. And you can also kind of pick some things that are going to come back year after year. I'm sure the clover is going to, keep coming back, things like that. You can really, have an environment that costs you almost nothing to maintain, and it can really bring in a lot of wildlife. And if the animals come and eating it all is serving a good purpose. I know some states it's not appropriate to feed animals and attract them in like that. We won't talk about that, but right. You might just want to take pictures. No. Yeah. Hmm. Okay. I think the FDA said that rabbits, sorry, I think the FDA said that rabbits are the healthiest meat that people have in their normal consumption. So, and I know rabbits aren't really in a lot of people's normal consumption, but just the same, they're really a healthy choice. Yes. I kept digging my fences deeper and building higher fences and I thought I was so good and whatever. And then I'm like staking out like and they're smart. Like I had to like really hide and set up hides and I'd have to look in different places. So if I shoot at one and it doesn't work out, that shooting spot is gone. Cause no joke, anytime I watch, the woodchuck will come out and he'll be staring right where I shot from. And he'll keep looking over there. Where are you? Are you there? Are you there? And then when I come around and get him from the other side, it works out. But you can't use and you're thinking they're not that smart. They're that smart. They're always watching. And I'm like, you jerk. And so that's the thing. Like the first time you shoot at them, you got the big window. They're oblivious to whatever. They don't worry about the humans. But if you take your shot and miss, it's going to end bad for you because that guy's going to be on guard and be ready from there on out. So, something to be aware of. Just know that, take your shot, make it count because they're a little sharper than you might think. And that or they're just outsmarting me. Anyway, I did set up where I'm out there like laying in the grass and it's tall grass because I let the yard grow a little bit and I'm sneaking up, crouching on him. That guy, I had a 4-foot fence. He just climbed up over the side and right over the top. And I'm like, what? A woodchuck? You can't. That's not fair. But you put a couple bullets in him. He didn't, with the 22, he didn't get over the fence so easy that time. I'm just saying. It's a little more difficult. Yeah. Yeah, that flexible. Yeah. Right. You said it's your small tiny dog that does the best job, right? With tracking them down and. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Nice. No, no, you can't complain about that. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It does. It's the opposite. Right. Another thing when you're laying out your food plot, you might want to consider where is going to be my hiding spot. My where am I going to be able to safely shoot without, having to worry about what's behind it, and think of the angles and how you want to be, that you're not shooting back at your house, or you're able to be up in a tree where you're shooting down at the animal. Somewhere you can safely shoot, and that'll be easy for you, and easy for you to have concealment, and easy for you to be effective as a hunter. Think of your dream hunting situation and lay out your food plot accordingly. If you put a little thought in beforehand, you can have, better outcomes time after time, in the future. So, like you said, making the animal feel comfortable, but also setting yourself up to have, the opportunity to really, move in safely and securely will, make a big difference. Okay. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Well, one of the things though, deer even, they'll eat the wood. I mean, they'll chew on the branches and whatever with the apple tree, and just right down. I come out and would be, in New York, I had a bunch of apple trees, and man, they would just eat those things down, where I'm like, I don't know if the tree's going to live. So it can be a little frustrating, but if you put enough out there, and you kind of have to buy them a little more mature. What I've found, if you're trying to go the opposite way, where you're keeping the deer out of your apple trees so you can eat apples. That's the reason a lot of people grow apple trees, it turns out. Um, I have planted garlic around the base of it, and that really did a good job. We tried, they had, somebody had told me, we used to hang a bell from the branches. So the deer would go out and he would like try and snack on the apples and they'd hear the bell ring. And that would kind of freak him out a little bit. That actually worked. But we really had the best success planting garlic around the base of it. So if you're trying to go the opposite way, because some of you, I imagine, are cursing us right now, going, "Are you kidding me? All I do is try and keep the deer out of my fruit trees," and I get that, and that has its place. We're just that's not this episode, but I'm telling you, planting garlic. So obviously, planting garlic is not what you want to do anywhere near where you're trying to bring in wildlife. That's another secret of the pros right there. But right, right. Bald eagles, whatever, you know. I was just poking you in the ribs there a little bit. I wasn't actually. That's not, I'm not trying to rattle you. Right, 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 well, I think it definitely comes down to, like you just said, how much land you actually have, um, affects everything. A lot of times, certain areas land is cheap and it's easy to come by, but it seems less and less in America, right? That's we're definitely losing that battle of free land. I think George Soros owns it all now, but who knows? I don't All right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 And they're like, I have permission for the owner. I hear that all the time. And I'm like, no, you don't. No, no. Yeah. No. You're not getting my buck. I don't know. All right. Yes. Yeah. Nice. And it's down. Yeah. No, that's the negative. Yeah, there you go. So, exactly. I mean, animals, yeah, shrubbery is not going to be what deters animals. What I have seen, like I'd mentioned, growing garlic, something like that, that is a deterrent. And again, it's going to protect a small area. You know, it depends how much garlic you're willing to plant. Turns out buying it, not as cheap as you might think. Getting started, but obviously, you know, for every one you plant, you get like five back, you know, so it multiplies year after year. You can kind of build up your inventory. But that said, I had just done, we do a couple of different things for fencing here. And I had just, my wife wanted a huge kind of garden area. I don't know, huge for fenced, I guess is the answer. So what we ended up doing is, I think it's like 150 feet kind of square, like 150 feet on each side. And what I had done was I bought, they call it field fence. Now, if you guys know field fence, it's got big holes. It's like maybe at least 5 inch by 5 inch, you know, big squares. So the bunnies are just like walking through it. They're not even, you know, thinking twice. But I was able to buy that at like 48 inches or something like that. It might even been 60 inches, something like that. And I ran that around the whole perimeter, but then came back, and this is not maybe the best way for everybody, but what I did after that was I bought rabbit fence. Now rabbit fence is, you can buy it, I know, at Tractor Supply, like 28 inches or 40 inches tall. Again, if I was using it standalone, I'd want at least the 40 inches. But what I was able to do is buy the 28 inch and then put it right against the other field fence. So with that, and then I used hog rings. Have you ever used hog rings? They use it. Yeah, me either. Till somebody just told me, they were like, "Well, why aren't you using hog rings?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" So they use it for like upholstery with furniture, and or well, I think with furniture, but also with like your car upholstery and that kind of stuff. But they sell a pair of pliers and these little metal clips that you just twist and put together. Anyway, worked out great to put, you know, you buy a bag of 1,000 clips for like $8 or something like that. And I sit out there in the field like an idiot and I'm putting the fences together. But the thing is, with the two fences combined, I was able to have something really rigid that you couldn't just lift up and slide underneath. Now, again, you know, some places I know in New York, I had to dig a trench and bury the fence like 6 or 8 inches or even 10 inches in order to be effective. But where I am now, the ground is a lot, you know, tougher, so that I found that I was able to just, you know, go right to the ground, but it's so rigid, being the two fences combined, that animals weren't just picking it up and sneaking under. And so far, it's been working out good. Now, that stopped the rabbits and the small animals like that. But then on the flip side, you still have to worry about deer. So I did taller posts, and I ran electric fence wire around the top. So far, I haven't even bothered to set up the electric part. I just ran the wire going up 8 feet tall, like in foot increments, to keep the deer from jumping in, and that's worked out. That was, I want to say, a cost-effective way, but I hate to say it. That big garden that cost me about $1,200 worth of fence. I mean, it's not 150 by 150, yeah, and that's a big plot. And most people, honestly, they grow enough excess when they're doing that large of an area that they're kind of like, well, I'll let some wildlife come in and take what they take, but they're not going to take it all. You see the big cornfields on the side of the road, and they're not, there's no fence. You're like, well, how do they keep the deer? Well, yeah. And they take what they want. It depends, the crop that we had is, valuable enough that you didn't want to lose it to the animals, that it's worth having the fence. So that's, you weigh out what you're doing. Honestly, that garden, in my case, my wife has a bit of a flower farm going, and flowers aren't as cheap as you might think, and some of them are, annuals or whatever, and you're stuck where you gotta really get the most out of it. You can't lose it to animals. So, but again, it depends what you're trying to do. If money, again, it's all money and time. You outweigh what you have and available to you, and you do things accordingly. But definitely think about what you're doing. Think about what's effective. I was into barbed wire, would have been a great option for the top, but my wife's like, oh, you're out at work and I'm not dealing with animals getting stuck in the barbed wire, and I have to go out and fight it off, kind of thing, cut it out, whatever is involved in that instance. And I've had friends who have horses and goats, and they're like, never use barbed wire because pulling an animal out of there is never anything you want to do. Again, you decide what's right for you. Just know there's options out there, for you to, find the best way to do it. Yeah, right. Yeah, I like mine that one ended up, right. That one ended up being more like a trapezoid, and what it was the tree line ended up dictating, how I had to shape it. Um, but that's, you do, but like you said, spending money, you want to get the most bang for your buck, and a square seems to be, the way to do it. But, you do what you gotta. And also, I mean, I know in my case with that one, it was how can I get the tractor in and maneuver and be able to get close to the edges and get in with the tiller and different things where I can still move, but I'm not losing square foot of garden area. So that's all something to consider and weigh out. But that's basically what I got. Yeah, I like that. Oh, you're killing me, dude. We're coming to the end of our tomato season. I was at the farmers market yesterday, and the wife's like, uh, they're all like, yeah, our tomatoes are done. Yeah. They're like, oh, we ran to the end of tomatoes. Nobody's got tomatoes anymore. And I'm like, yeah. Now we're on watermelons and peppers, and I don't know. It's about, and okra is actually the big the big thing here. And tobacco is just about coming. So not being a southerner and knowing how things work, um, we ended up with a bunch of like 8 or 9 inch long okra that are like hard as rocks that you can't even cut with a knife. And you're like, what the heck? So I'm talking to the ladies at the farmers market yesterday, and they're like, yeah, okra is a everyday thing. You have to be out there picking it every single day. And as soon as they're, 2 inches long or whatever, you pick them and you get them inside. And the one lady's like, I like to go to about 3 or 4 inches, but nobody's like, I like to go to 8 inches and whatever, because yeah, it just turns into a rock. It's like a squash or whatever, where you just have like a hard, impossible. You're out there with the cleaver trying to get through it. I don't know. It's not good, but I don't know. Teach his own, right? Live and learn. That's what they say. I think we have a lot of eggplant. Eggplant. It's eggplant. And then people are like, "Oh, it's not horrible if you fry it." And I'm like, "Yeah, nothing is horrible if you fry it, right? I mean, that's the rule. You can eat it. You'd be like, "Wow." Especially fried in animal fat. Come on. Yeah, that ain't it. Right. Yeah, that sounds right. That's it. So, all right, that's what I got. So, you guys know you have ideas, you have eggplant recipes, whatever you want to share with us, you can email us at preppingbadass@gmail.com. Now, we don't always respond right away. Sometimes also I'll read them and be like, oh, that's a Kevin email. And, I kind of let it sit, and Kevin's like a once a week checker kind of guy. And they take a little bit to, get responded to and whatever. But we definitely respond to everybody, and we're into hearing what you guys have to say. We definitely appreciate it. You also want to get in touch with us maybe a little sooner. You could try joining the Prepping Badass Facebook group, or you could also, we have a Facebook page that's like survival prepping, I think it is. I don't even know. No, it's Prepping Badass. And anyway, you can also email us at preppingbadass@gmail.com, I was saying. And I think that's it. So the with that, stay safe. Well, no, you could also Patreon. I'm forgetting everything here. You enjoying the show, you might want to support us on Patreon at patreon.com/preppingbadass, where if you donate as little as $1 a month, you can get a badass patch that I don't know, that looks like something. I don't know. It's got a cool logo, whatever. Anyway, with that, stay safe, and we'll talk to you guys next week. All right. So, what else you got? You. What? Hut. Dope. Oh, we got the it's 2011 Ram 1500. Big 35-inch tires, because I don't know why you wouldn't want that. I actually just had to get a a speedometer calibrator to set things up to make them match up, because otherwise I'm going like, it says 55 and I think I'm going 62 or something like that. And yeah. And I was told you can go to the dealer and they're like, "Oh, that's not a factory size tire. Screw you. We can't do it." But there's special things you can order to make it happen. So Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm embracing the redneck life there is what I'm saying. So the Dodge, the rear end gave out. That was thing. So that's what pushed me into buying a new truck, and by new I mean 2011, because that's about as close as I'll ever get to a $50,000 truck, right? Um, anyway, so I just bought a equipment trailer. You guys know I have a um a tractor, like a Kubota or something, bucket, whatever, tiller and bush hog and that kind of crap. So I was like, man, it'd be cool if I could go make some money. So it'd be cool if I had a trailer and whatever, could go and you know, go hustle with it, I guess. So I think I'm all cool. I take my crappy, rusty old 96 Dodge that's so full of New York rust, it's unbelievable. The leaf springs had been pushing up through the back bed, and I had to put new shackles in the back to hold it all. It was a disaster, right? And I'm like, all right, I can go get this trailer. I get this cool equipment trailer, like 20 foot, I'm the man. And I'm driving it home, and the freaking rear end just gives out, and I'm stuck on the side of the road. And I'm like, that's it. Yeah, with the trailer. So the upside is I was able to load the truck onto the trailer that I was pulling, and I called up one of my buddies that had a dually and was like, oh, and he's like, I'll go home and get my trailer. I'm like, I don't need it. All I need is you to just bring your trailer hitch and your pickup and tow me home. And the truck's been a fight where I'm doing repairs on it all the time. But I finally decided, I was like, you know, it hadn't left me on the side of the road. That's the kind of end. I don't like when I'm standing there and it's 98 degrees outside and I'm standing there for hours waiting for somebody to save me. That's like too far. And I'm not saying, I can't handle things like that. I'm just saying I don't want to put myself in a position like that. As a prepper, I'm like, no, that ain't gonna work for me. So I finally broke down and went and bought a reasonably new truck, and kind of moved myself into the right direction. And of course, it's a little bigger and a little cooler than nice aftermarket exhaust, sounds good, whatever. Little redneck. I want to get the Randy Marsh for president. I thought this was America sticker on the back of it or something, and let people know I'm a man's man. But I mean, that's an option, right? I'm in the South. They still fly rebel flags down here. Even it's bad, and I'm like, yeah, I don't want to quite get associated with that. It comes with too much negative connotation. You end up, and I figured the Trump flag is just as bad. I don't know, man. It's bad here. I have people who I looked at a house here, and one of the neighbors is like flying like the KKK flag in the front lawn, and I'm like, that's even a thing? Like I didn't even I don't know. In there, yeah, exactly. I'm like, embrace it, I guess. And it's funny, my realtor is a nice black lady and whatever, and we just switched it around because they sent somebody over. Oh, this house isn't for sale. You can't buy this house. And we were just playing it up like she was the one gonna buy it, my realtor, and because she's like, no, I'm moving in, and we had a good time with it. You got to keep people guessing, right? And I was like, yeah, I can't live next to those people. But it was a little too far from where I was working, and whatever. I was like, I can't do it. But it did have like a 2 acre pond, and she's like, I got a ton of black friends that would come over and fish in your pond every day. We could really keep your neighbors guessing. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, that would happen. I was like, all day. I was like, I would have a barbecue every day. Y'all be coming over and it'd be good. I'm like, because, if I can't piss off somebody, why even live, right? That's, that. So, That. Who hasn't seen that play out? Yeah, you just got to be like, I heard that too. What? Who was it? Oh my lord. Well, why are all these explosions and burn marks in your yard? I don't know. That's weird, right? Yeah, here we have like tannerite and all that. Everybody's blowing up things all the time. We're shaking the windows and but yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Oh. I guess they're big money, right? Yeah, yeah, they're not cheap. Um I I think people who cook food like you and I might don't go for koi fish, but I think there's like some kind of sushi end of it that people go like that way. It's like the sushi, yeah, that's where that all works out, and that's where the price kind of gets up there. But yeah, I we had looked at like aquaponics and stuff. We had talked about it for the podcast in the past and whatever. I Everybody sells here. It's very common. Like Facebook's filled with those big plastic water containers. The big white ones with the cage on it. I don't know. They're like everywhere around me, and setting up aquaponic systems with those, the idea keeps coming up in my head, but it's another project. It's like more money laid out. It's like, all right, I can do another $600 project, and yeah, it's going to be another 3 days of work, to get that set up and kind of going. And it's one more thing. It seems like it. And that's like rabbits, it's another thing that it's like it's like what projects can own me, and that's you know and I like to play with guns and pickup trucks. So right, right, I want to play with guns and pickup trucks. Yeah, yeah, right, yeah, that's it. I don't know, I go out and do my electrician thing and make my money, and then yeah, pay the grocery store instead of the off-grid life. But you do what you can do. I don't know. All right. All right, I guess we'll go out and do some work, get life going here, but I don't know. All right. All right, later. All right, should do it. And if I can figure out how to stop recording it, there.